Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. We are going to now be on episode number 30, and this episode we are going to be talking with Adam Ant. I think Adam is a legend in his own right, and I honestly didn't know, his whole story or how, the name Angel Island came to be. What was it? To be quite honest, I had no idea. And I think it's a very fascinating look at, his proposal of how he would have solved the red versus blue issues that, still happen today. And honestly, I wonder, I'm talking to scale, 1 million, 2 million players. How would people have responded to this proposal if they would have implemented it? Because it sounds very interesting. It's certainly a fresh take, if you will, at a problem that has plagued UO for decades. And it's really cool kind of seeing Adam step through this and to hear his passion. And honestly, you can really tell the guy has the love for Ultima, and he has a very specific, flavor of Ultima that he wants to present. And I think, honestly, it's, his shard, it was a success. I think it still will be. He's launching a shard. But I did think it was very important to understand where he came from, because he truly was up there with one of the greats. His comics were pretty legendary, and he created his own, program for, back before screenshot things existed. He coded his own really cool stuff that I honestly had no idea about. And, some of the behind the scenes stuff here is there's a lot more to talk about. And we didn't honestly have enough time to cover it all. There's just so much. So I hope sincerely you guys really enjoy this one. And I've been asked a few times, 100 times, will I be trying out Angel Island? I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to it. My schedule right now is pretty packed. I don't see it happening in the short term, but you never know. Maybe I will check it out. I think a server start is something magical. It's a lot of fun either way. But my goal here is to keep producing content for y'all, and I'm not going to stop. So sit down, relax, man. I hope you guys really enjoy this one. Talk to y'all next time. All right, guys, I'm sitting down with Adam Ant. First of all, Adam, thank you sincerely for sitting down with me. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's I know we've had some scheduling, issues, and just I'm glad we finally get to sit down and talk some UO. I want to jump right in, kind of something I usually always do. Can you kind of educate all of us? How did your name come about? Because it seems very specific.
Oh, well, the name is, as you know, an 80s pop star. And at the time I decided I was going to turn red, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to kind of have that as my handle? And there was a small group before I launched into the whole protector of the lich and that storyline,
Right.
that were doing the same thing. They all had the 80s pop stars name, and it sort of fizzled out.
Okay, so explain who this. Okay, so I may know who that is, but for someone a little bit, younger perhaps, like, was this a household name, Adam Ant 80 Star, or what?
He had a band, Adam and the Ants, and then he did his name was Adam Ant, and then he did some
Okay.
solo work. So yeah, he was pretty new age. Not your classic rock for sure.
Got it. Okay, cool. So, Reverend listening, now you understand. You can probably Google that because Adam, there's gonna be a ton of people doing that.
Oh, yeah, who is
uh,
this guy? Oh my God! When they see him, they'll freak.
right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so now walk me through too. How did you stumble upon just Ultima Online? Did a friend tell you? Did you read it? And gosh, I'm dating myself. Did you read it in a bookstore? The PC gaming magazine. Like, how did you hear
Uh,
about it?
it was a funny thing. I was at a garage sale, just picking up. I was on a walk and I went by a garage sale and looking at all their junk. I could see they had a bunch of computer stuff, and I thought, well, that looks cool. I'm going to go check it out. And this was back in the, I don't know, 95, 96,
Wow.
something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
And there was a five and a lot of listeners don't know what this is, a 5.25 inch disc, and I got that, and I brought it home, started it up, and it's a little, a little PC game that you play locally, and the characters are about, 3/4 of an inch tall.
Right.
And I played it, and I thought this is kind of cool because they had you could see a little bit of the lore and the history, and they had, Lord British, and they had the trolls attacking you, and you had your ship, and
Right.
I just thought it was really cool. So I played that, and that put the seed in my mind, and then I forgot about it, and then a couple of years later, I heard an announcement somewhere that Origin Systems was going to launch Ultima Online, and I thought, boy, I want to get that. I want to try it. What's it like? I don't think I'd really played only one other online game, and I thought, well, I want to try this out and see what it's like.
So, like, explain too, because I always find this fascinating. Explain what was your comprehension of like the online world at that point when you heard about Ultima Online?
Uh, Very low. I mean, I had played one other game called Worlds Away,
Okay.
and it was I wouldn't call it massively multiplayer. It was, there was people online, and
Right.
it's kind of a silly game. You could dress up in different clothes. You could buy an apartment and decorate it. It was really kind of mindless, but the thing that was fun, though, at the time was it was a place where you could meet with other people online and chat with them, and that was really
Right.
kind of new at the time. So that was pretty much the extent of my knowledge as far as the online gaming.
And okay, so explain to me too, when you hear about this concept of UO, were you in the beta where you had to pay for the CD and all that?
I did get in on the beta.
Okay.
Did a little bit with that. I don't think I was really excited about it. I remember specifically, though, beta testing the 3D client, and I actually really hated that. I said, please
Yeah.
don't do this. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I don't want to be that character. But I pretty much waited till launch, and made a character on Sonoma. I'm over here on the West Coast in California,
Okay.
Silicon Valley, and so I looked for the nearest shard. So we got Napa and Sonoma right here. So I made a character on Sonoma, but my ping, I don't know if it should have been about the same because they're really pretty close.
Right. Yeah.
But either when it was the routing or their servers, but my ping to Napa was better. So I made a character there, started playing, and that was the jumping off point for me.
And I always find this very fun. Explain your like what kind of computer are you on? Like give us kind of, if you remember, like what was your setup?
Well, it was at the time it was a pretty high end desktop. I do software development, so I always had plenty of memory.
Right.
Good lot, a lot of hard disk. So it was like a PC based, and I usually had a little bit better than average networking. I remember when I got DSL, I was the shit
Oh yeah.
on Napa. I mean, I was just, they're like, oh my God, what do you, how do you do that? And I said, yeah, I got DSL, I got 2 lines, 56, 58K. I'm
Wow.
smoking.
Man, yeah. Well, it's so funny because I'm assuming you're a bit older when you started to compare it to, perhaps myself, because I had no concept of, like, I picked Sonoma and I was in Florida. So I clearly had no concept of, ping, routing, any of that. And it's so funny that I even remember, I mean, even as a kid playing, I never once kind of was like, I feel like I'm kind of lagging, because even after, because I was only on dial up for a very short period before we got, it was Bell South, DSL. And once I got that, it was like even more so. I don't remember lag. Like, do you remember like saying, I'm lagging? I just don't remember
Well, yeah, but you kind of live with it until
that.
you
Right.
until you until you play with somebody I mean, until you die to a dragon because you can't run away, and all your friends are gone out the cave and on their way home with the loot. So
Right.
so yeah, it's
Yeah.
really relative to everyone you're playing with. They're saying, they're telling you, hey, you're lagging behind, or I can run circles around you. What's going on?
Oh, I know. No, I know. That's really funny. So, okay, so you start off, in this game. What did you want to do, or what did you want to be when you first? Like, what was your goal?
I had no idea. I tried multiple different things. I started out, I never really wanted to gather resources or
Okay.
that. I wanted to adventure. And I remember I saw this guy I started out in Jalome. That was my home.
Okay.
And if you ever notice all the cats I have in Jalome, it's because I was killing cats in Jalome when I was starting out. And but I met this guy at the Jalome Bank, and he had full plate armor. He had the long hair. He had like
Right.
some blue, like a some sort of shirt on. It looked cool.
You met
And I say,
Fabio.
yeah, Fabio. I say, what do you? I say, what are you guys doing? He said, well, we're fighting the ancient worm. We're fighting dragons. And I'm thinking, wow, I want to do that. So I started adventuring, mostly solo. But if there was somebody going out, I'd go along with them, and we'd
Right.
beat up trolls or whatever. And I just had a lot of fun doing that. It was and the thing that was cool about UO was that the world was so huge, and even when they had a bunch of players online, you could still find places to do your own thing, to get away from everyone else, and just farm, or just
Yeah.
have some alone time, some quiet time to play your own game.
Well, and two, I want folks to understand. I think a lot of people know this, but some don't, because I have actually encountered like new UO players. But back then, I remember using. I had ICQ back in the day, but before that really caught on, it was like really you literally logged in the game and then just kind of, hey, oh, Bob's on, cool. Let's, I'm gonna go play with him. Like there was no like scheduling or planning. Is that kind of your experience or?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and you're lucky if you knew that Bob logged on, because you don't have anything else to tell. And I had ICQ as well. That was the huge
Right.
that was the big messaging app at the time. But yeah, I didn't really do too much. Like today, I mean, it's all Discord, and everyone's connected all the time. And when you're designing a game today, you really need to account for that instant communication, that team activity communication, which when we were playing just didn't exist. I mean, maybe you sent me an email and said,
Yeah.
hey, Luke, I'm going to go log in tonight at 8 o'clock. I'll meet you at the X. And that was
I
that
know.
was it.
It's crazy how in this, in this, I gotta say, world now, it's like just instant, where it's like you can, depending on your settings, you can literally see, like, I have mine set where you can see what game I'm playing. So it's like, okay, well, this guy's has a client up or he's logged in. Or at least now we have in game, guild messaging, stuff like that. But before, yeah, it was totally the Wild West where it was like, if you didn't see one of your buddies log in for 2-3 days, you were kind of concerned, like what's going on, because you didn't have another way. Yeah, maybe an email, but that was pretty much
Yeah,
it.
yeah. You'd run by his house to see if it fell. that's
Yeah.
that's how you knew if he had been logged in.
I know, and I can't even imagine the level of catfishing that went on back then too, because it was really the Wild West, where yeah, there was no voice, there was no video. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to like defend the way it was before, but it made things a little bit more of an adventure.
Yes.
You were a little bit more alone in the world. It was you and the world, and you didn't know what was over the next hill. And now with the instant connectivity, it changes the profile of the game so much that it makes it harder for game designers to accommodate that instant gratification. I need something now. I can talk to all my friends, and they said that there's this in the dungeon, and that you never went out there and found it. There was a
Right.
great comic. There was a great comic back when, and I'll give you the gist of it. The comic was something along the lines that the adventure, the journey there is the best part of the adventure. And it was he's marching through the forest. It's a UO comic. He's marching through the forest and he's killing a
Yeah.
deer or something. And one of his buddies come by and said, let's go to the dungeon. And he says, sure, let's go. And his friend goes, okay, I'll make a gate. And he says, well, no, I'd rather walk and, enjoy the, and so his buddy, gates there. And I guess maybe later in the story, he's kind of bored because he missed everything between here and the dungeon. And in the journey there, he met brigands, he met ratmen, he
Right.
met, all the different things, and that was the adventure right there.
Well, and I think yeah, you touch on a good point too, where it's like I think now at the level of okay, it's been decades. People are like looking to play UL for very, I think, specific reasons, and this is something that in the past, even with COVID and everything, and my playtime increasing, I've come to realize that there's different wants and needs, and it's usually like PvP, PVM, and like trade, usually, right? And those kind of three broad categories, and back then it was like, I was happy, yeah, like to your point, I was happy just I'd run to a dungeon on foot. Like it was just cool. Why not? So
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, so yeah, I agree, and that is, I think, unfortunately, lost today a little bit. Not
Yeah.
so much, yeah. So and I think part of it's the responsibility of the shard designers out there, because if they cater too much to the instant gratification, the acquisition of goods, and collecting of things, you tend to miss sort of the point. You miss the adventure, and that's one of the goals that I try to put into the design, is that
Right.
the adventure is the focal point, and if you get something out of it, then great, that's a bonus.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And okay, so and sorry, went out on a tangent there. That was funny, but so going back to you. So I read, kind of some people said a few things to me. So I want to kind of make sure you tell us your story. So you did a lot of, I would say, I'm gonna call it hardcore RPing. That's just how I'm going to categorize it because
Oh yeah.
it seems so specific and interesting. So explain to everyone kind of how you started defending Wind, the dungeon, how that all came about.
Sure. So after my adventuring days, um, I got a little bit bored, like we all do, and I thought I want to try something new. And I found a chest at the Britain Bank, opened it up, and blew my head off. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. What's this? And so I started playing with tinkering, and I made a tinker who his specialty was make instant explode
The boom boxes.
the boom boxes.
Yeah.
And at one point he had well over 125 long-term murder counts, and he could
Wow.
not leave his house. And he would make them, and my other character would take them out and put them on player vendors, because at the time you could double click a chest on a player vendor and blow them up. So I
Oh,
had a lot
you
of fun with it.
could. I don't
Yeah, you
remember that. So you could put a boombox on the vendor, price it, whatever, and then what? Label it,
no,
swords or
you just
something.
yeah. The
Wow.
box isn't for sale, but you put a little label that says, these are my swords. Check them out.
Oh man, then he could just camp right there, wait for him to click it, and then boom.
Well, it was funny. I really, because Altura, my tinker, couldn't leave the house, because if he died, it was
Yeah.
over. But I would just be sitting in my little wooden house, making something, and all of a sudden I see, you've been reported for murder. You've been reported for murder. You've been reported
Oh
for murder.
man, so that's almost the ultimate troll, where yeah, they just died, and you didn't even get anything, right? Who cares?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I did that for a while, and then I kind of felt like, it's a little bit cheap,
Yeah.
so I decided um, to create a role, an RP that sort of gave me a purpose and a reason for doing what I'm doing. So I came up with a whole story. I mean, it's pretty elaborate, but basically, the lich, according to my story, were the Mystic Council, and they worked for Lord British, and they
Okay.
counseled him on everything. And he was jealous of their knowledge and power and had them all killed. But because they had some skill in necromancy, they didn't quite die. They went into this in-between state, and that's the lich. And me and my brother and my father in the story all
Yeah.
knew that this to be the case, and nobody else really knew it or would admit it. So it was our duty, our charter, to protect the lich until they could return to the land of the living and return to their rightful place in the castle.
Wow. Like this, so this is intense, man. Like that's very well thought out.
Yeah, well, it evolved a little bit over time as I was asked more and more questions about it. Why are you protecting the lich? Well, okay, then to come up with some BS, about why.
Yeah, like Monty Python style, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just sort of solidified it. And once we had a guild, I needed to put rules in place. You can't grief anybody. You have to give them regs to get home or a recall rune. You got to give them a red bandana and a book explaining. And so that whole thing, that whole conditions and rules that I put on the guild required me to build this whole backstory about the reasons. And I think that made it fun for the guild members because now they
Right.
had a reason, a purpose, and they had a foundation on which to go out and do this thing to protect the lich.
Yeah.
It made it really hard for guild members, and it was really against the rules. You couldn't just go out, PKing and griefing and things. And once you have this storyline behind you, this reason, this purpose, you don't want to break the rules. You do want to be the upstanding guardian of undead lords.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, and I think too, like stories like that are just they're so incredible, and it's like, and I do think even the only real like today modern day people that do that are really the orcs, like that have a full blown organization that stay true to a purpose. Other than that, like we've kind of lost that. Where it's just people are like I said, I think they're in those three categories, and they're just trying to get what they need to get done. Does that make sense?
yeah, and not yeah, so yes, it does. And I try to bring that back. I give players on Angel Island tools for that.
Right.
I have so back on OSI, you could put on like an orc helmet and you would become sort of orc kin in a way. They didn't really call it kin at the time, I don't think, but they would not attack you, and you
Right.
could hang out with the orcs, and that was like a huge win. And I thought, boy, you know what? I could extend this to undead. I could extend it to savages. I could extend it to whatever. I could extend it across the board with all the different factions. So we added this kin system, IOB, items of brethren. So if you get a hold of one of
Okay.
these items of brethren, you can basically join the orcs, you can join the savages, and sort of the guild rules apply. They will highlight orange to you or green to you, depending on alignment or whatever. And it made it back in the previous incarnation of Angel Island. Yeah, there were savages. There was a lot of players that aligned with savages. There was players that aligned with orcs, and they would have these nice battles, and they would RP it. They'd put the paint on and dress that way, and so it isn't dead. I mean, I think shard owners, if they appreciate this,
Right.
have a responsibility to put the tools in place to allow them to do this. But if they don't see it themselves, they're not going to build this architecture, this infrastructure for players to do it and find it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. That was definitely an interesting take on it. Now, you grew this guild, from what I understand. I mean, how many members did you have at the peak? I mean,
Uh, I wouldn't. I don't think it was a huge guild. I think on Napa we had a couple of hundred, two, maybe 300. but probably 500 if we start taking into account the other shards. And that really surprised me. I mean, the whole thing was sort of like a daily surprise to
Did
me.
you? So you never expected this to like
No,
blow
I
up?
actually
Okay.
didn't even want to. I didn't even really want to start the guild. I was just in wind doing my thing, and several people would come in wearing the red bandana, and I'm thinking, hey, that's cool. And I'd pop out and I'd talk to them, and they're saying, hey, can I join you? And I'm thinking, I pretty much put them off a little bit. I said, yeah, if you want to, go ahead, or don't, whatever. And it began to gain momentum, and I started hearing about my actions from third parties, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's time to start this guild. So I started a guild. Didn't really want to manage it.
Right.
So I found a great compadre, Jade. She said, well, I love all that management stuff. I will be the guild master, and I'll go out and recruit people. Actually, we didn't need to recruit. They were just pouring in. And then pretty soon we had grown the guild on Napa pretty large, and it started spilling over just by word of mouth to several other shards. Maybe half a dozen other shards had
That's awesome.
guilds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
was,
mean, I think that piece of just anecdotal evidence of how intense some of the RP was just it's crazy. Now, did you besides doing this because and by the way, what was the name of the guild so everyone knows?
uh, Guardians of the Undead Lords, or Ghoul, Gul.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So, um, after this, did that ever fizzle out? Because what happened kind of came after.
Well, yes, the um, Origin systems destroyed it in one publish. I mean, it's like I didn't pay attention. I knew they were coming out with publishes, and then I knew this publish 16 was going to be a big one. They're going to introduce new weapons and some new skills and
Yeah.
character types, and I thought, okay, well, whatever, I'm just going to ignore that and just do my thing. But they made this one change, which was to, if you die in a dungeon, you're teleported to a town with all of your belongings
Right.
immediately, just like magic. And the whole RP of Ghoul centered around us not griefing, right?
Right.
And being able to resurrect the fallen and explain why they were killed, and to give them the information and the regs and the recall rune. And so that's really the center of our RP. But when they come out with this published 16, that was taken away. And then we had no more RP. Then now we're just, PKs in a dungeon. And so that's
it's
when Ghoul
funny.
fell apart, because I didn't want to rewrite our history at that point and say, well, not really. Now we're this. Now we're the protectors of
Right.
Ratman or something.
Well, and it's amazing because I mean I remember, and it's funny because I remember in your notes I think you put it was 2002 when Pub 16 came out, which I didn't even remember. What I could obviously look it up, but I was like, man, I remember logging in after Pub 16. I remember hearing about it, and I remember clicking like an item and then seeing 25 different attributes for it, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
what
Oh yeah.
is this? And
Yeah.
I remember thinking in my head, and I've said this probably before, but I was like, I'm tired. I don't want a Diablo version of UO.
Yeah.
Like, because I think back then Diablo was extremely popular. I remember I played it a lot, but they had different stats, and fine, it was cool. But I'm like in UO, I don't really want that, and it just I don't know, man. It really signified a deep seated change,
It
and
did. And for the listeners that don't know, Publish 16 was Age of Shadows. That was the Age of Shadows published, where they introduced ninjas and all of these crazy attributes you're talking about on the weapon. So you would click on your sword, and there would be, literally 12,
yeah.
15, this kind of fire resistance and this ice resistance, and it's that and this and that. I didn't like that. So you won't find that on Angel Island. We got rid of all of that AOS stuff,
and
and
and I don't
kept
think a
it
lot of
sort of old
people
school.
I don't think a lot of people like that though, because I mean, well, and again, I don't know every free shard, but most of the successful free shards do not have AOS.
If they don't
The
have all those attributes and whatnot.
No, like they're all the old school servers. I'm talking about free shard stuff. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the only one that I know that has done anything is Demise from back in the day. I don't know if you remember that server. That I think
I do.
had AOS. I thought. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. I think if somebody was new to UO, uh, then it probably wouldn't bother them. But being an old schooler, I didn't like to see, that level of change to the game and all the ninjas and
Right.
other crazy templates they had, Bushido and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
It just took too much focus away from the beautiful simplicity of UO, which is the thing I really appreciated about up until Publish 15 was the simplicity. You only had this many monsters. They weren't all different colors. You had this many
Right.
weapons. They had a couple of attributes, and then the game was yours to make of it what you want. But they flipped the script on Publish 16 and said, now we're giving you, 50 new creatures and 100 new
Right.
attributes, and you can spend your entire UO life just trying to attain all of these resistances and aspects and whatever else. And I thought that kind of took the fun out of the UO I remember.
Right. And I mean, I was the same way. I remember looking at that, and I lost the interest to even log in. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm done. Like I don't find, it was interesting because in talking to some of the actual developers, hearing like that internally they were pressured heavily and forced into like a UO2 dev cycle kind of made sense why some of these changes were happening and they were just kind of like throw it at the wall style, like this seems like a good idea. Let's just shove it down their throats. It was like, who played this and said, "Oh yeah, this is what I want."
Well,
Just
I think it was sort of a cascade effect. There was probably a couple guys like me on the team, or maybe most of them, and they really felt like purists. They wanted to keep
right,
UO pure, and once they were sufficiently pressured, they just said, screw it. Okay, you
right,
want to ask, you want all this stuff on the weapon, whatever. I give it. I've already lost the battle. It's UO's gone. Yeah, you want purple unicorns? Okay, we'll add that. So yeah, I think it was just sort of a cascading effect that once the holdouts rolled over
right.
to the pressure from, I don't know, marketing or sales or wherever the pressure was coming from, then all hope is lost. Then it's just a wholly different game. The only thing that's the same were the accounts, basically.
Right. Oh yeah, I know. It was such a frustrating experience, I think, for a lot of people, and I think, yeah, no, for sure. So okay, so after Publish 16, you were pretty much done with that RP story. What kind of happened after Pub 16? Like, did you get into the free shard stuff? How did that all happen?
Well, I was mad and disappointed. They had taken something that I had played for years and ruined it. And I actually was putting some pressure. Well, I mean, what pressure can I put? I was just a player, but
Right.
and a PK, not someone that they are currently interested in.
Right.
And I was pressuring them to give evil a role within the game, give player killers and murderers a role within the game.
Okay.
And so I sent them a proposal, and it was signed by over 1,000 of the, all the names that were anybody in UO back then,
So
basically
how did you
most of
get
them.
them to sign it?
I Well, a lot of them knew of the proposal, but I don't remember. I may have emailed them and say,
Yeah. I'm asking for a specific reason because technology back then did not
yeah, I think it
allow
was.
that to
I think it was.
happen.
Yeah, I think it was email. I would email the owners and say, hey, have you heard of the Angel Island? Of the the websites. It was mostly websites. There weren't that many shards of the websites, and say, hey, have you heard of the Angel Island proposal? And most of the communities I was connected with totally supported PKing and murder in game, and they hated the fact that you had to macro off murder counts as a ghost or just not log in or something. And so getting support from the community was easy. And I had people putting my little support Angel Island, which was the name of my prison, by the way. It wasn't there was no shard notion yet.
Okay, so Adam, let me interrupt you 1 second because
Sure.
this is extremely important. I didn't even tell you about this because this message I received, just so you know, was today at 6:43 p.m. So literally like 2 hours ago. Okay, I took your this has to do with your Angel Island idea, right? I sent the the website you have up with the proposal, like the GameMaster.net. I sent that to Starr Long because he told me he did not remember the Angel Island proposal, right? So I sent him the website earlier this morning. He must have read it, and his response to me was OMG, all caps, the names list there. So
Oh yeah.
I want people to really, because I didn't know everyone, back then either. So I want all my listeners to really understand that. I mean, Starr Long himself, one of the top head honchos, even recognizes these household names on this list. But okay, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to let you know that because I figured that was kind of a special thing there. It was really cool.
No, the recognition is great. It's 20 years too late.
I know. But okay, so explain what the idea. Go into the what your proposal was. Yeah.
So the idea was conceptually simple. What I've heard, though, it was rejected by OSI because it was quote unquote too complex. But the idea is simple. It's that if you're a murderer and you've got X number of murder counts, and you die, then you get a gump that tells you, if you resurrect, you're going to lose your stats, or you can go to prison and work and serve your time there. And then I go into detail on how the prison system works, and that it's not, you're not just sitting in a cell somewhere. It's a quest. It's an adventure. You have to, all of your stuff is taken. You're given a blessed dagger, an empty spell book, and you've got a jail cell. You stock up on food. You stock up on food and stuff. And then when you finally get enough, then you go down to the cemetery down there at the prison. You kill some skeletons. You get a hatchet. You go up. You take out a guard. And you basically work your way up until you can take out the guard tower.
Okay.
Once you take out the guard tower, the quest begins. And I don't know if you want all the details of that, but essentially, you can stay in prison. And I think your murder counts are accelerated a little bit just by being in the decay of your murder counts is accelerated a little bit by being in prison. You can, I'm not sure how many people know this, but you can bribe, you can go and kill a bunch of skeletons, take that gold up and give it to the parole officer, and she'll reduce your sentence. Or you can, break out. If you're there with a couple buddies or people you don't know, you guys can team up. You can take out the guard tower. You can get the key. You can get the lighthouse pass and go for it. And it's not easy, but
so how long does that take, a player to do?
A player. So an expert, somebody who is highly skilled and been to prison before and knows where all the secret passages are and knows where, what the lighthouse pass is and has worked through it. A couple guys can get out of there 6 hours, maybe 8 hours.
That's per every time you murder someone, you're sent there.
Well, no. Only if you die and you don't want to resurrect and take stat loss.
Okay. So you have the option. I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, that makes sense.
So you're just a happy PK,
right?
Running around, and then oops, you got guard whacked, and you're thinking, oh damn it, now what do I do? And so now you got the option to go to prison, and it's a little mini game inside of a
Right.
game, and you're just off the streets. You're not bothering, the townspeople, the merchants, the whatever. You have to deal with this, and
Okay.
so yeah.
No, and I think it's a very interesting idea. I would have liked to see how that would have really played out, because I feel like the time that it takes you to finish at is pretty significant, as well as, well, I'd probably rather do that though than take stat loss and remacro my stat, my skills, right?
Sure,
I
sure.
mean, that's at
Yeah.
least the choice I would probably make.
There's also one other option. Well, it's actually just a parallel option. You don't have to wait until death. If you get high enough in your murder counts, there's a special teleporter at this city that we built, Ocnavel, that if you run into that teleporter, you can just be teleported into prison to repent for your sins, and then everything's the same as the death gump. All of
Wow.
your items are banked, and you can begin working off your counts there.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, because like Outlands does, I call it a timeout. Where yeah, if you repent to wipe everything, you can't PK or go into any dungeon for 24 hours. So it's an interesting take on that. I think yours is way more interactive, where you actually have to do something in game, right, to like battle your way back. Man, and I'm sorry I'm pausing. I'm really trying to figure out like how, at scale, what would people think of that? Like, what has been the reception, I guess, of people
Uh,
experiencing that?
it it was very well received,
Okay.
and the system worked. We had to um, tune it to difficulty and time that you spend there. And it worked well. And we had people, writing, essays on, how to escape and the best ways to.
Yeah,
And I read this one essay that said, "Yeah, I'm just a mule. I just collect resources, and then I just, log out there. And then when my friends come in, I just log in and just hand them all the resources." So I
oh,
said,
wow.
okay, okay, I got something for that. So I put a little system in place so that after you log in, if you had been logged out for 3 hours or some number, they get a message that says you were rolled in your sleep and all your stuff is taken. So,
Okay, so,
so
and I know we're jumping a little bit, but explain to me, why did you decide then to, start up a free shark? Because when did you start the original Angel Island, and yeah, I guess why?
uh, so because I still was a little bit disappointed that I didn't have my Napa shard anymore. I didn't have my role play anymore, and
Right,
I didn't feel like I should have to come up with a whole new model for play because OSI decided to change things because I had very because quite frankly I didn't have any confidence that they wouldn't change it again.
right,
And I'd put a lot
yeah,
of effort into that, and uh, I had a lot of people that followed Ghoul and their laws, and so I thought, I'm just going to. I'm an engineer. I mean, I found RunUO. I can do this, and so I
right.
downloaded RunUO 1.35 beta,
Wow,
and I got it up and running, and then I started. Recruiting. I set up a website, and I got some developers together, and almost a large part of Ghoul followed me to my website, and I told them, "Hey, you guys, I'm going to launch this server. It's going to be UO the way that we played it. It's going to be the UO that we loved. I'm going to build the prison that I wanted to build," and we did it.
wow. Now, okay, so we're gonna, obviously, I don't need every intricate detail. We'll fast forward some of this, but when you started, building this, you've never. I mean, obviously, you're a software dev, but you've never built anything with UO before, right?
No, I did. I did an 8x8 macroer program. I mean, I knew a little bit about the protocols and whatnot, and I know how to script. I was writing some C# scripts to 8x8 macro. And I mean, I was actually writing macro programs for back when I played Worlds Away, many
Yeah.
years prior to that. So I was not new to tinkering with the inner workings of the game. I felt pretty comfortable there. So having the actual source code for a server was just made my job a whole heck of a lot easier.
Now, did you, after obviously your experience with it, did you have a more fondness and respect for the devs of UO after, you were the man making changes?
Oh yes. I mean, just yeah. So when I got the Run UO, there were really two categories of people that run shards. Um, there was one category where there's two chunks to Run UO and probably all of the Pull and all the other servers. You've
Yeah.
got the server code, and it handles the networking and all the low level grunt complicated code stuff. And then there's the scripts library on top, which implements this monster or that monster, and they have those attributes. A lot of the shards out there.
Hey guys, quick sponsored commercial break here. This podcast specifically is sponsored by Death Wish Coffee. I want y'all to head over deathwishcoffee.com. Use code Ultima Online. It's a special code that only is available for listeners of this podcast. It gets you a nice discount. Look, the fact is, I'm sure everyone drinks coffee. I know I do. I use this product. I've been using it for about 3-4 years now. I've been sipping Death Wish coffee. It is unbelievable. If you want to support me, you want to support this podcast, you believe in my vision, let me tell you, Death Wish is basically literally fueling me with coffee to pursue my passion, which is expanding this podcast as far as we can go. So please check them out. And honestly, give me some feedback. Let me know if you guys have tried it. I know I've gotten a couple people have already ordered stuff. Sincerely, thank you. But thank you very much, guys.
Work really up at the scripts level. They don't really go down into the server. But we were, all of my team were professional develop. Most of them were professional developers. So we were
Right.
not afraid of digging into the server, understanding it, extending it. And so we were able to sort of build the whole shard from the ground up. And to answer your question, yeah, I was really impressed with not only what OSI must have done to build that game, but the Run UO folks for being able to write this emulator, because the lower level networking and whatnot is not for the faint of heart. I mean, it's
Right.
real code. You can't get it wrong. I mean,
It's intricate,
you
I'm
know,
sure.
it's intricate. I mean, you can screw up a monster so that it's got the wrong name or the wrong skills or it casts the wrong spell or whatnot, but you can't mess up the server code, the low level part.
Now, speaking of coding, explain to me what was that screen capture program that you, I guess, made? What was that?
I've over the years I've developed quite a number of shareware programs. I put them out on the internet, and if you like it, send me $10, $15, whatever. Grabby was a little screen capture program because at the time I was wanting to record my Adventures of Adamant series,
Okay.
and I could do like a a print screen and then try to save my whole screen, or I guess I could do an alt print screen and then try to uh,
Chop it up or
then
yeah.
chop it up and say. I thought, oh my gosh, this is just like so terrible. So I whipped up a really low, very small, very tight little screen capture program, and you could, hit a hotkey and take screenshots on demand, or you could just say, what I ended up doing later was just said, here's the folder, take a screenshot, every half second, this quality, this format, and then I'd go back later and say, okay, these are the pictures I want for my story.
Okay, and okay, now I need you to educate people. You said the word shareware.
Oh, we don't know what shareware is.
I do, but hey, I don't
Yeah,
know. Explain that.
Well, shareware is the software that individual writes that they can upload and put it on a shareware site, or later on in life, I started hosting my own at thomasello.com. I would have all my programs up there,
Yeah.
and you can download them and use them for free. And if you liked them, they would pop up and say, send me $15, or perhaps, send me $15 and unlock the advanced features. So
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I knew what that was, but to be honest with you, I haven't heard that word shareware in like probably decades.
yeah, oh well.
It's been a while, man. Like it really, okay, so we got through that. Now, another thing I probably should ask you at the beginning, I forgot. So, the reason I know the name Adamant, this is me personally, was I have a feeling that you were in the comic space in some regard. So can you explain to someone like me who's very ignorant how were you in that space? Like, explain that a little bit more.
Well, so after I created the sort of the Guardians of the Undead Lords, I noticed that the reception was pretty good. People were interested in the RP.
Right.
That kind of surprised me because there were some other RP guilds at the time, and they were doing similar cartoons, and there was also other cartoons that weren't really related to guilds. There was like Bone Dude and Plate Dude and I'm a Newbie, and
Yeah.
I thought those were awesome. I loved reading those, and so I thought, hey, I can take my RP that seems to be working and turn it into some stories. And there was a really popular site back in the day called Battle Vortex, and that was Fear. Fear ran
Okay.
Battle Vortex, and his number two man was Adric, who later left Battle Vortex to work for OSI on the brand new faction system. So he helped design the faction system.
Right.
And Fear gave me, he kind of took me under his wing and uh, hosted a little subsite on his, which were the Adventures of Adamant. And so I posted my first story there. It got some hits. Back then, I don't know if there was no sharing them or like likes or whatever, but it was, we
Yeah.
could read the analytics and see that people were watching it. And so I started writing them there, and they were a success. So I moved when I finally launched my own site. I moved them over from Battle Vortex to GameMaster.net and kept them going for 100 episodes. I
Wow.
quit at 100.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, I remember I'm a newbie, like for sure, but I never, because to your point, man, there wasn't like a repository of like, okay, here are all the comics. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was very difficult, I feel like, to find certain content because it just wasn't as, readily available or searchable. Does that make sense? Maybe, I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
explaining
it makes sense. And actually, today I post on Reddit once in a while, and I kind of ghost their Ultima Online forum, and it's
Yeah.
not unusual. There's probably a post once a week that says, "Hey, who knows where those I'm a Newbie comics are? Or who was the guy, the Bone Dude and the Plate Dude? Where can I find those?"
Right.
And everybody is struggling because they'll point you to a website, and the website's been taken down, and
Yeah.
it's really hard to find these because back then there weren't even the Wayback Machine. I tried to get back some of my stories. We can talk about how they got lost, but I tried to get them back on the Wayback Machine, and it had like two captures of two captures, which didn't really have much of anything. I think I got like the first episode and a couple
Right.
pictures from the second episode. So I was able to recover all of my images when I left my hosting. I backed up my GameMaster.net website. However, the database for the website wasn't in the directory tree. The text didn't come over, but I do have all the images. So
Right.
I'll go back and try to recreate the text, which will be interesting.
Good
Um,
luck.
yeah, yeah, but this time they'll get backed up correctly. So, but yeah, it's really
Yeah.
difficult for people now to find these stories because back then there really wasn't a good mechanism for finding cached copies or backed up copies, whatever.
Right, because back then it was like in game, someone may mention it. Hey, you see that comic? I'm a newbie, and you're like, what? And then you could maybe search it, or he would give you the URL, and you could go to that. But I mean, hell, I don't even remember back then. You could to favorite a website was a big deal if you found one, right? That's and for folks that don't remember, but I mean, back in the day, like you favorited something, it was important because if you lost that link, you may not be able to find it.
Yeah, that's right, because Google wasn't indexing like they're doing
Right.
today. Just typing in "I'm a newbie" would not get you where you want to be, right?
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. So okay, so we got the comic stuff. Now we're gonna shift focus a little bit. Explain to me, you know, because obviously you ran Angel Island for how long was it online?
It was online for about 13 years,
Wow.
but 7 years were solid 24/7. Had two rebirths in the next 6 years.
Okay.
And so, yeah, but for the first 7 years, it was
And
pretty
how many
good.
people did you peak at? Like how many are we talking about? So everyone knows who's not familiar.
Well, we had 11,000 registered players. And our peak
Wow.
numbers at the time, I think the most online at one time was 331, which I guess doesn't sound like a lot compared to some of the shards out there today. But for us, it was good. And 331 people, that's playable. I mean, we
Well, I
had,
think you touch on a good point that a lot of times people get, I think, population crazy, where it's like, you know, I've seen, and this is what I'm gonna say about this. I've seen shards that have 500 people playing. I'm gonna put this in air quotes, 500, but in game it feels like there's 10, right? And then I've seen shards with 200 people, but I mean it's like they got feels like they got 1,000 people, because those people are so invested and so active, it makes it feel alive. Does that make sense to you?
it does. And I guess to your point, I mean, if you go to a shard with 500 players and 200 of them are in their house macroing, and the other and 50 of them are standing at West Britain Bank in their fancy dress, um, then you go out adventuring and it feels like 50 people out there. Nobody's out there in dungeon, shame, killing earthies. If you
Right.
get a shard with 300 people and nobody's at the bank sitting, and few people are out macroing, that feels really different. You're going to go to shame. You're going to see 5, 10 other people there. You're going to go to wrong. You're going to see people PvPing out in front of wrong. So
Right.
it's really what people are doing, not really the numbers. And if people are out adventuring, you'd be surprised how small the world is, except nobody goes to certain places, certain towns are like
Right.
always desolate. But yeah, if you get people out playing the game the way it was meant to be played, yeah, 300, 400 people is a good number.
Yeah, because I know talking with the guys over at Renaissance, when I talked to them, I mean it was like, they've had a steady, I would say 500 people, online for like ever, and they have a hardcore, following of just loyal people that enjoy it. And I think what people need to understand too is, we're seeing a lot of these old shards come back or have a rebirth again. It's because people are looking for a specific piece of UO that they enjoy playing, is my opinion.
I've heard that many, many times over the last 2 months since I announced the rebirth.
Yeah.
I've heard many people say, "Yeah, I play on Shard X, and it's got everything. I want to play old school UO."
Right.
And that's good, because that lets me know that a lot of people haven't forgotten the excitement of a simpler world where it's up to the players to make the world.
Yeah.
If you're having the developers have, it's a kind of a treadmill. Once you get a player base that depends on you creating new content constantly, um, it's a crazy treadmill for the developers, and the players are never satisfied. But if you
Yeah.
set the expectation in the beginning that says, "Hey, look, I've given you this blank canvas. Um, you've got these tools. You can create kin. You can build townships. Make your game. You guys make it."
Oh yeah, for sure. And okay, so you're kind of touching on this to let everyone know. Angel Island, when is it relaunching?
Next month, the middle of next month. So yeah,
And
Saturday. I
I,
think it's the 14th. Yeah.
and what's different this time, Adam? Like why am I coming back or checking this out?
Different. Well, the core of Angel Island is pretty much the same. I mean, the philosophy has not changed at all.
Okay.
I trying to hold true to the original intent of Angel Island, which holds true to the original intent of OSI published 15 era. So that all remains constant. Um, I have added new features, but again, these features don't include purple unicorns or any of the goofy weapons or 50 attributes or
Right.
things. They're systems that try to help the players um, build the game they want to build. Like, for instance, we've got a new crafting system that allows craftspersons, for instance, a blacksmith mage. A blacksmith, yeah, blacksmith mage, GM blacksmith, GM mage can now craft magical weapons, and so that the PKs and the PvPers now they need these craftspersons, right? Before
Yeah.
they could just send out their adventurer to go kill some high level creature to get these things. Now they need the craftspersons, and the craftspersons need the resource gatherers, the
Right.
miners, to
Yeah.
get the
It's all
ore.
connected.
So it's all connected. And one of the core principles of AI is a balanced economy. We don't do bods like OSI did bods, and we don't have the vendors uh, don't buy things from the players. But what they will do, and we're right now rewriting this wiki page because it's really not
Yeah.
explaining enough how valuable this is that when you go out and mine a bunch of ore, you can actually take it to a town vendor and give it to the town vendor, and they'll give you an accounting book that says, "We will sell this on your behalf. And when another player buys it, we'll pay you and we'll take a commission."
Oh, like a ledger almost, and then they keep track. Yeah.
It
Okay.
is a ledger. It's called the balance buyback system. So everywhere possible, we try not to create gold out of thin air.
Right.
We try to have gold circle through the economy so that it's a balanced economy and it's a player driven economy.
And you kind of bring up gold. So explain your philosophy on profit, cash ops, buying gold. How does that all work?
Maybe I'm not following the question. Buying gold? You mean like outside of the game?
Well, like for instance, on certain shards, you can buy something equivalent to gold that you can then resell for gold, like a coin or a piece of what I'm saying. Like you can buy that with real money. Like how do you handle donations? Are you gonna have donations on Angel Island? Like how does
Oh,
that work?
yeah. So I think one of the advantages I have over other shards is that I don't need the money. I don't take donations. You can't buy anything. I don't run ads. So there's no influence on me um, to direct the game in a certain way, to give somebody. I had a guy offer me once in the last incarnation $3,000 to give him an island.
Oh
I
wow.
said, yeah. I said, that's pretty cool, man. But I don't do this. I don't. I won't. So yeah. So there's no Angel Island doesn't support any kind of pay to play or uh, cash involvement whatsoever. I think it's a rat's nest, and it really detracts from the vision. I mean, how can you be coding to a particular vision, a goal that you have for a game when somebody's paying you for something or to do things a certain way or for whatever? To me, they're wholly incompatible. And so as long as I keep it very black and white, completely binary, we don't do that, and then it leaves me free to keep writing it the way I want to write it.
Man, I think I need to record just that little snippet you said because you said it way more eloquently than I could have. Because I agree with everything you said, but I'm gonna leave it at that. That is awesome. Okay, so we kind of got the launch date. We got kind of what you're doing. We're gonna move kind of towards the end of this. Okay, so a couple of fun ones for you. And again,
Okay.
this is meant to be fun. If you had an unlimited budget, and what I'm going to preface this with is this could be it could be Angel Island or this could be like OSI. You know, back in the day, you can do with it what you wish. But someone gives you a blank check. What are you going to do with it?
Well, the first thing I would do is lobby OSI to allow a retro shard, my shard, Angel Island, on their servers, so that it would be official and available around the world, and people could get on and play, could experience this old school UO feel. And I think that they would be surprised at how well it would be received. A lot of
Yeah,
people wouldn't understand it. I mean, if you're new, if you're 20 years old, you probably wouldn't appreciate sort of the old school feel. You wouldn't appreciate the challenge or the hardships. Getting killed and dry looted. You're going to think, well, heck, I don't want that. I
yeah,
want safety. I want safety. I want item insurance. But I think there's still a lot of people that get it and want to make the game their own and don't want development uh, dictating the direction, the goals, the enjoyment.
right. Well, they want something
Of,
new too, right? Why not try something different? And see.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think
they might like it.
And I think too, I mean, even I've been on this podcast adventure for a while now. That people, the more they hear about it, the more they understand that there is a ton of people that still hold this. I'm just going to say experience. Whether it's Angel Island, old school OSI, in such high regards that I would almost say to myself, what you almost get annoyed by it. Like, all right, what is this? Why is so many people? Like I would think they'd want to check it out, right?
Well, I think that I was not alone in my disappointment with the way that OSI changed the game.
Yes.
They just weren't able to articulate their disappointment or act on it. Me and a few other shard owners were able to act on it, and I think that's why we are today, is that some of us do remember. We are able to re-implement it and bring it back.
Yeah, and I'll just say this, I've said this for any shard owner I've talked to, it takes some brass balls, to create a shard to deal with the headaches, hassles, and really horseshit that comes with that, right? Because it's just the reality is it's not sunshine and rainbows. I don't know. Can you attest to that or?
It's not sunshine and rainbows, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it costs. I think people don't understand. They're thinking, oh, so you recompiled the server, and you're hosting it on your laptop. What's the problem? But
Yeah.
so they don't appreciate how much time it takes to write this. I mean, I'm working on this stuff. I get up early in the morning, work on it all night till night, when my wife finally drags me in to to come in.
Right.
and and then on top of that, you're paying. I don't do hosting anymore. I bought my own high end server class machine, and I got a fiber line run it right into my house, 1,000 megabit fiber line. So
Wow.
that's all out of pocket, and so it is kind of a thankless job. However, the reward is there. For some shards, it's money. You sell
Right.
ads, you sell items, you make cash that way, and that becomes your game. But for me, it's really just the enjoyment. If I can get all the old schoolers to come back and play it, and the guilds get back together, the camaraderies, the shit talk in the battle
Oh yeah.
zone, all that stuff. I've done what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing, and it's very funny. And this is a quick sidebar. I know I'm dragging this on, but I did an episode. I think it was like four of them ago, and it was a PvPer, right? And PvPers for some reason are very difficult to get on. But I was talking to another guy that I really wanted to get on, and he told me, he's like, man, he goes, I need to do this podcast because Ansem has been talking crap for the last like 2 months. He got on this stupid podcast, and he's the best PvP. It's small thing, and I think you appreciate that too. The small inner drama and the shit talking is just, it's so hard to explain to people. I don't know. Does that make sense to you?
It is, and one of the mistakes I made early on was I ended up sort of like den mother, right? The den mother role
Yeah.
of do people still know what a den mother is? I don't know, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. So I ended up like a den mother. So I was like, on this hand I'm writing code, and on this hand I'm trying to resolve, all the conflicts on the board. And this time around, I'm much less interested in drama. I don't really
Right.
want to be involved in the drama. I don't want to try to solve everyone's case. What I'm going to do is provide them this canvas to play the game they want, and there will be some rules on the board.
Right.
Pretty simple rules. And if as long as you abide by those, I don't really want to be involved in the drama scene.
Well, I tell you what, there's nothing that will cheer, you or your significant other up more than seeing another couple fight. And you're like,
Oh yeah.
I'm glad I don't have those problems. When
Well,
yeah, right.
it's funny. Last night I took usually late at night I take a break from coding and I just kind of read the Discord.
Yeah.
And one of these guys appeared from like 15 years ago. I recognized the name, and another guy appeared from the same time, and they didn't really know each other. And it was in 5 minutes before they were shit talking each other, and they're like, "Let's take this to the battle zone."
Oh yeah.
That's okay with me. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the gaming mentality. You take it to the message boards, and then they're saying, I'll get my main and I'll meet you at wrong. Okay,
Well, I'm going to take it a step further, and I've said this in one of my first episodes where I said, like, imagine if someone had a flat tire and you drove by, you're like, oh, that sucks. I don't really have time to stop. I'm doing something, and whatever. But if I saw some of the flat tire and they had like a UO, bumper sticker or plate, man, that's an instant
pull
pull
over,
over,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Give them a ride to town too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Buy them a coffee too. Why?
It's
It's the camaraderie that comes with this game that is just very hard to articulate sometimes. But yeah. Okay. So final question, and you kind of went into it with your tinker, but since you've owned Angel Island, maybe you've saw something, but explain to me where you saw someone getting like trolled or just messed with, or just maybe a funny story, something like that throughout your years.
Well, the trolling. I think the trick is to recognize that you're being trolled, and then just cut it off. The trolls are a special kind of individual that really are seeking two things. One, the attention that everyone's giving them by replying and anger faces, and they feel like they're part of the community or whatever, or they have an agenda. They're from another shard and they just want to throw some dirt on your parade.
Right.
So I typically will give them the benefit of the doubt. The first couple posts, I'll try to like answer a question, and you pretty much know right away if they're even open to being to having their mind changed. I had a guy on Reddit. And he was saying, this sounds like a scam. How do we know that you're not just stealing our
Oh, yeah.
our account information? And I'm like, okay, well, here's my LinkedIn page. I've been doing this for this many years and all this stuff. And he said, wow, okay, thank you. That's better. I'll see you in August. so,
Right.
so clearly he wasn't a troll. He just wasn't good at,
I feel like
manner.
Reddit's the king of the 5 word reply, right? Where
Yeah.
it's just like a guy told me when I posted, well, the one I did with Manfred was awesome, the hacker one, and people were like, well, you're just trying to clickbait so you can, make your money off the podcast. I'm like, dude, if you really think I'm making like steady income off of Ultima Online podcast,
You've got another thing coming. Yeah. Back in the original launch of AI, I had money was a little bit tighter. I had monthly bills for the server, and I had
right,
another server for the website. So I had a monthly bill coming in, and so I would try to rally donations. And the player base was great. They would kick in, and for probably 6 or 8 months, they were able to meet my goal of, I don't know, it was a couple $100, whatever,
right,
for
yeah.
server costs. And eventually, though, I just got tired. I felt like nagging or whining, so I just said, "Screw it! I'm just going to pay these bills. I'm not going to ask anybody anymore." And so I just quit asking and just did it because I wanted to do it.
No, and I think this conversation to me has revealed that you have a very high passion for what you're doing, and you have a clear vision on why you're doing it. And I feel like and I've said this a lot, but with UO, we're talking niche of niche. This isn't some new category or something new. This is we're splitting hairs, right? The population's not 100,000 people anymore, right? But
Yeah, no.
my thought was Angel Island. Given its lengthy history, I think will be successful because there are a ton of people that remember what I call, these golden era days, where a lot of these fond memories were created.
And I think some of the good news, yeah, I agree. And I think some of the good news for those looking at Angel Island now is that because I'm doing this because I want to, I don't require any number of people playing. I
Right.
don't require 1,000 people to meet my financial needs. I'm happy if I've got a good group of people that play it regularly and they're interested and they're bringing in people now and then. Yeah, that's great. That's all that's needed.
No, and I think too, and it's so cool now with technology the way it is, where people can actually hear you speak and kind of just, get a feel for what you're all about. And I think it's going to come across very sincere because, you know, I think sometimes for server owners, whether it's successful or not, there's always some stigma that is with every owner. You probably know what I'm talking about. And
Sure.
it's important for me to just give a platform for people to speak and, just, give their vision on why they're doing things and let the people decide.
Okay, now before we wrap this up, you did ask me for some fun stories or whatever.
Oh,
Can I
yeah,
give you a
yeah.
couple of, let me give you a couple of my, and they're going to be exploits. So
Perfect.
I've enjoyed battling some of the more ingenious hacker players over the years. And I'll give you a couple of my favorites. I won't give names out, but a
Sure.
lot of you out there will actually know from my previous writings who these guys might be. And you know what? And I still loved them after they exploited. I slapped their wrists and I showed them to the prison or whatever. But one of my favorites was the tower exploit. Now, for you that are familiar with towers, if you picture it in your mind right now, they have those wings on the top that overhang the rectangular foundation, and that's really
Right.
kind of cool. It's like a little overlook. Well, somebody figured out that when you're placing the tower, you get this preview of what it'll look like where you're placing it. Well, as it turns out, if your friend is placing the tower, you can actually run into the preview. I never knew that you could actually go in. You can actually go in the door, run up the stairs, and go over on the little outlook. So the exploit was you put the preview right next to a castle,
Okay.
right? And I'm sorry to shard owners that are saying, "Oh my God, this guy's exposing this," but I'm telling you, if you don't know about it, it's happening. It's happening now anyway. This has been around forever.
Right.
So basically, you do the preview next to a castle. Your buddy runs up on the little overhang there. You close the preview, and your buddy drops down into the courtyard castle, and you're in.
Oh, wow.
So that was an easy fix. I'll throw the devs a bone that don't know about this. You just lock the doors on the preview. Um, uh, Another one was so remember I told you that there's a teleporter at the Ocnavel town that if you have a bunch of murder counts, you can kind of turn yourself in, go to prison, and reduce your counts.
Right.
Well, so these guys figured out that if you precast recall and then you have a hotkey that targets the rune, right? You
Yeah.
precast recall and you run into the teleporter, and in that split second that you're being teleported, you hit your hotkey and it bounces you back out to your recall position. You've just lost like 4 murder counts.
Wow.
Because the way the teleporters work is if you leave legitimately, you get reduced because that means you escaped, right?
Yeah.
And so I saw some funny things in my logs. And so I thought, okay, so I didn't say anything. I went in there and I changed the code so that I look for this particular exploit, and I just changed the location from their rune to jail. So, so, so the next time they did this, they ran into the teleporter, they hit their macro to recall out, they ended up in jail. I just showed up there and they're like, "Yeah, gee, sorry, Adam."
Oh my
So
gosh, that's really funny. Yeah, well, I know playing with Ash Chopper, one of the guys did exploits too. Man, it's crazy how much of a wild west it was, man, back then, and even now.
oh yeah, yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
No,
So
well,
that's one of the big jobs of the developers on a shard
right.
is maybe 30% of the time, not so much launching the shard, but once you get going, you're probably spending 30% of your time just battling the hackers,
Bugs and
exploiters.
exploits.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah. It happens everywhere. Yeah, that's just human nature.
yeah.
But hey, Adam, thank you very much, sincerely, for sitting down with me. Is there anything else you need to say to the community at large, or anything you want to say?
If you're curious about Angel Island, come check it out. If you're new to UO, it may feel a little bit alien and hard, but you'll find that well, like I used to say, life is only as sweet as death is painful,
Oh
which
wow.
which really means that all the junk you get on some shards where you're just collecting stuff, it's not really special and you don't care about it. But if you live and play in a hard environment, a hard world where you work for everything, um, even the simplest things, the little house, your force weapon, these things become special and valuable, and it really changes everything about your play.
Yeah, no, very well said, for sure. I do think a lot of, well, I think people, it enables a hoarding addiction for, collecting pixels, right? I mean, um,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but yeah, no, very well said. And I sincerely wish Angel Island nothing but the best. And I hope you have a successful launch. And I know I'm sure in future episodes we'll catch up again and, kind of see how that all went.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed it, and I hope that you can come log in on launch day and say hi.
Cheers, man. Yeah.